Welcome to the Claw State Pod. This week, we're talking about the NFL draft drama and a couple fun headlines. Enjoy the pod. Why does everyone in the Big Ten become Iowa?
Everything evolves to eventually become a crab.
Ryan Day wanted the crab fight.
This team has two claws and it wants to snip at you.
He will play like the crab if he feels threatened.
We'll start with the NFL draft, and we'll start with the Shedeur Sanders story because that's obviously the biggest one.
Did something happen?
Something did happen. The projected number 1 or 2 overall pick fell 6 rounds or something. And I want to say I don't follow the NFL as closely as you guys do. I don't think any of us are super into it, but you guys know more than me. And I want to ask, what did he say during his interviews that made him fall 6 rounds, bro? He was supposed to go in the first round.
The tide was turning a little bit on the first round projection in the last couple of months. It was looking more like second or third round, which I think, you can't deny that it's football only, second or third round fits. Probably back into the first round if you're seeing guys like Jackson Dart get drafted. But like, man, my theory of the case is that between the alleged bad interviews, which we'll never know what actually happened there,
Yeah.
but between that and if you're being scouted as a backup quarterback, essentially, you need to hear that feedback early in the draft process and say, okay, well, I'm going to play in the Senior Bowl. I might do the Shrine Bowl. I'm going to work out at the Combine. I'm going to do all these things. And my guess is that teams saw this dude not do any of those things. And, that's why you take a guy who's probably second or third round on football talent and drop him to the fifth round.
Okay. Was he being scouted as a backup quarterback? Because I can't
That's
tell.
the only way it makes
Yeah.
sense to me. That's the only way it
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
Because I'm not like Mr. Shedeur, but I thought he was pretty good. Like I could see a way he could start, provided a weak QB draft class. Like it's
Definitely.
amazing to me that he fell this far. There was collusion, right? They did not like him. They did not. There was this was sending a message.
I think it was a combination of factors where one, Shedeur has a propensity for being a cock, and that's fine. I think got people like that sort of Jordan cockiness, or is it Johnny Manziel cockiness? So I think that doesn't like preclude him from like being worth it if he's like talented enough. The thing is, it's like with quarterbacks that have their weird like backyard football plays and like a talented enough arm to get out of trouble that they might have put themselves in. You can see the talents there. Like he's an NFL quarterback. I feel confident in saying that. The only thing is when he was sliding and people would get online and be like, "Hey, what the hell is happening? This is ridiculous. Like I can't see. Like this doesn't even make this doesn't compute." Like understood where that was coming from. I was very surprised myself and shocked. But someone said like, "Oh, well, if you look at him and his stats the same way you would Gardner Minshew's college stats, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense."
Here,
You
here's
just
my
have to
thing.
pick a flavor. People had Malik Willis going in the first round because teams love quarterbacks and quarterbacks are valuable. But it really is just sometimes they don't like a guy and he's not so much better than the next
Yes.
four guys
Okay. I, I,
that
I
they
think
just
there's
skip over him.
I think there's a combination too, which is that he, like John said, wasn't like Andrew Luck, undeniable, like one of the greatest prospects we've ever seen. And
Mm-mm.
then he also pissed off a lot of people with his like attitude, I guess. And then also they don't want the president of the United States tweeting them in the middle of a game if they don't put him in. For the record, I cannot believe that was a real tweet. I thought it was fake
Yeah.
when I saw that.
They
Um,
followed up with it in a press conference today. Someone asked
Taking
about
credit
Shedeur.
for the pick.
Absolutely.
Wait, what? Who?
So so they asked Shedeur. They asked about Shedeur, like, "Oh, the president tweeted about Shedeur Sanders," and The press secretary said, well, the president made a statement and he was picked shortly afterwards. So that's all I'll
Are
say
you
on that.
serious? Oh my God.
Yeah.
They asked the press. All right. Well, I don't want to get derailed, but there's so much that happened with him. I want to also mention the prank call. Okay. So the Falcons, it's not the Falcons defensive coordinator, correct?
DC's
No.
son.
Okay. The Falcons defensive coordinator's son apparently found Shedeur's contact information on his dad's iPad from scouting. He had left it out, and then prank called him. And then because he was born after 2000, he videotaped himself and posted it online to get caught immediately. I
So
want to.
his friend was the one making the actual call, and he's there like, oh my God. I just think it's funny that he was wearing an Ole Miss shirt doing this,
Yes.
further casting aspersions on Ole Miss being a terrible place for terrible people.
Okay, but I have a conspiracy theory, which people should agree with me on. Okay, bullshit. First of all, defensive coordinator scouting Shedeur. No. The Falcons didn't even draft a quarterback. Weren't even looking at it. I think he went through his dad's iPad and found it. It was not open on the table. I think he
It
went through
wouldn't.
that shit.
I agree. It's total bullshit. That's like that story is like my 6-year-old child saw an iPad open and was just, hitting buttons and found something. No, you're 21, dude. You know what you were doing.
Yes, yes. And I will say the kid fucked up and like I don't know. It's not that big of a deal. I thought it was pretty funny. Everyone's pretty upset about it, but I thought it was kind of funny. It couldn't have
Yeah.
happened to a person more deserving. So it,
Come on.
karmically, everything is fine in the universe. But all right,
It
we did
also
the,
it's
yeah,
so obvious that it would happen to the Falcons.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that
of
that
course.
this stupid of a story would have a Falcons kernel to it is
I know.
just super fucking typical.
Yeah. Either way, it's done. This is like when that Ole Miss offensive tackle, the video released of him smoking weed. It's like one of those things. You'll forget about it. But all right, we did the Shador thing. Um, Josh, you wanted to mention Travis Hunter in this draft. I'll
Travis
let you.
Hunter is insanely valuable because he plays two positions. And the fact that a team said we can trade a first round pick next year to move up to get this player because he counts as two players. I think that's really cool. It's one of the times where one of the absolute college stars that we'll remember for what he did was recognized by the NFL community. There's translatable skills. And that really stood out to me because look at the college football 25 cover. That was what the ultimate like there college sports are different from professional sports even now where Quinn Ewers, seventh round pick, Donovan Edwards, undrafted. He didn't have the greatest year anyway,
Mhm.
but that cover with those three players, Travis Hunter and those two, is just so emblematic of like, this is its own thing. You have to let it be its own thing. I like the draft. It's the intersection of the two like favorite football leagues that I've grown up with and have all these memories with, whatever. But you can't just cross them. Like the players that stand out to you that mean something to you will mean fuck all to the NFL people.
Do you think he's going to play two ways in the NFL?
Yes.
I disagree.
Yeah, I don't
And
see
and
it.
I'll lay out what I think, all right? So he's obviously, Heisman winner, exceptional player in college, both ways. I think he's a better cornerback than wide receiver at the NFL level. And I think that it's just going to be so fucking hard to actually play both ways in the NFL. I don't think that as a cornerback, I don't think that the receivers you're going up against are, you know, I think they're too good for you to go to half of your team's defensive and cornerback meetings and practices and be a lockdown corner. And then the cornerbacks you face as a wide receiver are going to be too good for you to win consistently. Again, going to half of your offensive meetings and half of your wide receiver practices. on top of the fact that playing 100 snaps at the NFL level is kind of a different animal than playing that in the college level. Now, with that being said, if someone can do it, it's Travis Hunter. I mean, if he can figure out how to make that work, if someone can, it'll be him.
They'll use him on
I would
offense.
be, they'll definitely use him. I think he'll start at corner and he'll be used for packages on offense. I think that's what we're looking at. And
Mhm.
if it goes well, then they bump up that percentage. I mean, shit. It'd be awesome to see. I would love to see it.
Yeah, I think he's a lockdown corner though. I think he's a really good NFL level corner. Wide receiver, I have my doubts just because of like his physical stature. Like I don't know, something about it like I'm a little skeptical, but they'll use him for sure. Um the other high value pick that I thought was crazy was that Cam Ward, he went number one overall, correct? He went number one overall.
Yep.
Am I crazy to think that that is not a great? I don't think he's the number one overall pick when there's Abdul Carter or even Travis Hunter to me makes more sense. Cam Ward to me, I just don't think it's. I don't think he's the best QB in the class. I don't even think he's better than Shedeur. So like,
Mhm.
Wow. Wow.
I think Shedeur is pretty good. I think Cam Ward's also pretty good, but like Cam Ward projects to be a backup in my mind way more in the NFL than Shedeur. That's just my opinion.
So what leans you away from Cam Ward? Because I'm kind of surprised to hear you be surprised that Cam Ward went one.
Okay, first of all, it's just the level of players. Okay, there's like Abdul Carter's available. Like I
Right,
just think
right,
like
right, right.
that there's just that for number one overall pick. Also,
Okay.
he's pretty sloppy for a number one overall pick QB. Like I know he went number one overall because he's a QB, is my point. Like if you look at the
Yeah,
level
yeah.
of player in this first round, I just don't think he's that good at his position, relatively speaking. And that's pretty much the main thing. I mean, admittedly, fucking Jackson Dart went in the first round. Can we? That's probably the biggest story to me. I was out at a bar with my friends in like a loud bar, and somebody said Jackson Dart got drafted to the Giants, and I live in New York, and they all said, "Who's Jackson Dart?" And I started laughing. I started laughing out
You're
loud.
about to find out.
They drafted Jackson Dart. He's like He's like a completely average SEC QB. I cannot believe he's a first round. You know,
Yeah, that one's crazy.
we're talking about what Shedeur said during the interviews. What did Jackson Dart say during his interviews?
Dude, I don't know, but the interview he did with Gruden for like Barstool a couple months ago, respect to Jackson Dart. He's a starting SEC quarterback in a first round draft pick. That dude sounded dumb as hell.
I mean, his name is spelled Jackson with an X. Well, I think he
That's yeah.
projects he went to Ole Miss. I think he projects a certain yeah. Um
I think it was Mike Tanier that I heard say this about Cam Ward earlier today. Uh, he was saying that Cam Ward is a good enough quarterback to go number one, but not good enough that you would trade up for him if you weren't number one. So the Titans were there, and I think that's really it. Like, there's only so many jobs in the NFL. And if there's just like for whatever reason a shortage on suitable like applicants for that job, then people will do astounding things to make that happen. Whether it's going with a quarterback that doesn't necessarily deserve to be number one in a vacuum, or trading up for one because you just prefer him slightly more than the others. And I think that's what happened with the two first round QBs this year.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point right there. And that's really what it comes down to is it almost feels like teams were drafting based on like last year's notebook where there are what six quarterbacks in the top 12 and like all of them had cases to be first round. And it's like this year, I mean, okay, let's do this exercise real quick. Last year, first round quarterbacks, right? We go one, two, three, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Michael Penix 8, JJ McCarthy 10, Bo Nix 12. Where would you put Cam Ward if he had ran out of eligibility after if he'd had this season, but that was last year and he was out of eligibility, he had to go to the draft?
oh,
Probably. behind May in front of Penix, behind Penix in front of McCarthy.
I would even say behind Penix. Penix was really impressive in
Yeah,
college,
that's
but admittedly, Ward has a better arm. So well, yeah, I'll agree with you on that spot. Probably ahead of Penix in that
I
in
have
that.
no idea. That's
yeah.
asking me to like chew gum and stand upside down.
So, I mean, to your point, there were really good players like with also with high positional value like Abdul Carter or, a tackle or, Ashton Genty even. I know that's not a high
Mhm.
positional value in the NFL, but like I think Genty positionless value is a better player than Ward or, whoever.
Yeah,
But
I mean two.
but it's a quarterback league. I mean, the bad teams are desperate for quarterbacks. They'll
The
say who's the best
Browns took
quarterback in the
two of them.
draft.
Dude, it's ridiculous. Okay, I hear you. Obviously, quarterback is king, but just look at Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, all go after, and I would say I would have taken any of those guys first overall if I was in their position. I would have taken Will Campbell. I would have just taken I would just taken a tackle or
I
Abdul Carter.
wanna I wanna do this really quick. The 2011 first round.
Is there a
There's
reason
a
that year is significant?
well,
I mean,
one
a
for
really cool thing happened like 4 months before that moment, but
that's right. I just wanted to go over who was in this class. So the first 10 picks, we'll just go over them. Number one, Cam Newton, consensus number one pick in the draft, position list value,
Good
position
pick.
added
hell
value.
of a pick.
Good pick.
Awesome pick. Do that every time.
Went to the Super Bowl.
Number two, Von Miller.
Good pick.
Incredible. Big 12 record holder. Buffalo Bills at three with Marcel Darius. Incredible. Bengals, AJ Green. Cardinals, Patrick Peterson. Falcons, Julio Jones.
Hell of a pick.
Jeez.
Niners, Alden Smith. And the Titans took Jake Locker at eight. And then the Cowboys didn't get a quarterback and just got the next player available, Tyron Smith, who's retiring as a Cowboy like this year. Jaguars got Blaine Gabbert. And the Texans got J.J. Watt. Like,
I mean, well, that's just an incredible draft.
it's an incredible draft. And if you're reaching for a quarterback, there's no guarantee, but it's really hard to see Blaine Gabbert 10, J.J. Watt 11, Christian Ponder 12, Nick Fairley 13. You just never know.
Dude, Ryan Mallett got taken in that draft. That's crazy.
Jeez, this is such a
This was
throwback.
Greg McElroy's draft. This was Tyrod Taylor's draft. That wow, what a time.
Yeah. Okay, but some of these picks are bad even at the time. Nick Fairley's on the board, and you take who? Ponder? Christian
Christian
Ponder?
Ponder.
He wasn't even that good at Florida State. Anyway, whatever. We're getting
Yeah, we're going down a
yeah.
rabbit hole.
Either way, either
Robert
way.
Quinn, Mike Pouncey, Ryan Kerrigan. Oh my God.
Okay. I wanna take a step back and just say for some reason in this draft, quarterbacks were taken and it was a weak class, and I just want to ask why were they drafted first Jackson Dart? What do the Giants see in a first round as a first round value in Jackson Dart?
Mobility, willingness to attack downfield. Um, People have been saying he kind of reminds them of Daniel Jones, and the Giants are comfortable with that for
That's
whatever
a
reason.
plus to them.
No, but he's a known quantity.
Okay, sure.
That's disgusting.
Okay. There's Dylan Gabriel, who also surprised me that he got drafted. I figured he'd go undrafted. What does Cleveland see in Dylan Gabriel?
Uh,
I
all
don't know. I don't know what you could see in Dylan Gabriel that you would then be like, this guy is 2 rounds better than Shedeur Sanders.
Yes, yes.
That's really because it's like, okay, if a different bad team takes Dylan Gabriel in the third round, you know, w- not a great pick by my estimation, but it's a third round pick. Like, what are you reasonably expecting to get long term out of that? Taking a project quarterback in the third round is kind of whatever to me. Like, it's a it's a low value pick. Like, you're not trading up into the first round to take Jackson Dart. You're just grabbing Dylan Gabriel. Like,
I think it's the same way the Browns draft traded back with the Jaguars when they selected Travis Hunter. They're just trying to build a team for 2026. So you'll need a quarterback and you'll need a backup to that quarterback. So getting your version of Brock Purdy, if I could be so bold, will be a nice little thing you can do, especially when if you have a guy drafted and don't spend a backup quarterback spot in free, don't buy a backup quarterback in free agency, you get a compensatory pick. So you can get another Dylan Gabriel next year.
Yeah, I guess they just it's insurance, it's Shedeur insurance, I guess is what they're thinking. They want a backup QB and they just decided to take two, I guess, just in case.
but they
That's
have
all I can think of.
they have five quarterbacks in their room. They have Flacco, they've got Pickett, they've got Gabriel and Sanders, and there is a fifth. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head,
Oh,
but
Deshaun Watson, who's injured for the year.
yes, that's
Right.
correct.
I
That's funny.
guess
Your mind censored him.
five QBs is crazy. They'd have to
Unfairly
trade.
canceled.
They're just trading. They'll have to trade somebody. Five is crazy. I can't even believe Joe Flacco's still alive. I honestly would have assumed he's gone at this point. But okay, Gabriel gets drafted. Jalen Milroe gets drafted to the Seahawks. I understand this pick. Okay, he's a freak athlete. If he doesn't work out as a QB, they might not even draft him thinking he's a QB right now. Um, Freak athlete, and hey, I could see him being a tank commander, an interesting tank commander. I am higher on him than most of the league, which is that I actually think like if Anthony Richardson can get snaps in the NFL, I see no reason that Jalen Milroe can't.
I agree with you here. I don't think he's a very good quarterback, but I think that pick makes more sense than like Tyler Shuck going in the second round,
Oh,
like
yeah.
significantly, actually. Like, because like you said, he's got all the physical tools except accuracy. Like,
Yeah. And then right after fucking Riley Leonard gets taken, who another college QB who I do like, who I respect his game, but is like peak college QB. I just cannot see it working in the NFL at all. He's kind of fast, but he's not NFL fast. He's kind of big, but he's not NFL big. He's like a jack of all trades, master of. He reminds me of like JT Barrett.
yeah, I mean the Riley Leonard like toughness slash dog factor, that's a trademark stat for this podcast, by the way. I don't know how that plays in the NFL. And by saying I don't know, I'm trying to be nice and saying I don't think that plays. I think he'll get broken in half when he's trying to like prove something by attempting to truck like some crazy defensive tackle. He'll just die.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of assume he's just like the peak clipboard holding backup QB, like nice guy in the locker room.
Hey, there's a good paycheck in it if you do that.
For sure, for sure. Um, Either way, a lot of QBs that were drafted just because I guess there's just such a shortage of QB play in the NFL. They're like literally taking anyone at this point. Um, on the topic of that, there were a few players who stayed an extra year in college who seemingly lost a lot of draft value with Quinn Ewers. Donovan Edwards, I would argue, I don't know if he lost. Like, I'm not sure he would have ever gotten drafted
I
because
thought he was too young.
yeah,
He's a
he
senior?
might have, yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Either way, he was on the cover. Both of them were on the cover of College Football 25. Ewers got what, seventh round,
Yep.
and Edwards didn't get drafted at all.
Yeah, he
I
signed with the Jets as an undrafted free agent.
Oh my God, that's so bad. I
It's
feel so
bleak.
bad with Donovan Edwards. There's a caveat which is like really deep. running back draft, I would argue. I mean, Scadaboo fell, and I'm telling you, Scadaboo's gonna cook in the NFL. I'm so confident of it.
In the
Um,
same backfield as Jackson Dart.
yeah, yeah.
Scatterboo was meant to be a San Diego Charger under Jim Harbaugh. He was meant to be. I don't know why it
It's
didn't happen
fine.
like that.
I feel like
Omarion
Scadaboo was
Hampton,
meant to be
so.
a New England Patriot. Like, like
Hey,
that's who he reminds me of. But either way, Edwards and Ewers drop. I want to comment that I think Ewers dropping that much was pretty ridiculous when Dylan Gabriel, Milrow, and Riley Leonard are drafted ahead of him. I would argue he's better than all three of those QBs.
I
Oh,
think it's got to be an injury thing. I think the oblique
Mm,
thing that happened mid-season that caused Arch to get a couple starts. I mean, that had to have been. I really think that's the reason the second half of his season went so poorly statistically for him,
mhm,
and probably why he fell too. Because I mean, I think I remember saying it on here at the time, like when baseball players strain their oblique, it's a long amount of downtime and you can't do physical activity. You can't, it's not like something that you can do PT and build your muscle back. You literally just have to sit. And he was throwing a football really fast, which does use a lot of your core and back.
mhm.
I, I,
It
I
must be
feel like
worse
that has
than
something to
was
do with
reported.
that. Yeah.
It's got to be
And,
worse than
and,
reported.
and I would bet that he told the team that he was fine because there's that other guy in the quarterback room that he doesn't want to lose his job to.
yeah. I don't know. I think it's just it's the same thing as before. Like there's only so many slots available. And because there were a bunch of young quarterbacks taken very high, very early, NFL teams are going to re-up and draft another guy the very next year. Like if I had Bo Nix, the last thing I'd want is to get another quarterback that he would even think about being replaced by. Like we were a playoff team with him. I'm not shaking his confidence unnecessarily. Like the Ravens did that enough to him. Like I it's just it's tough because quarterbacks are so political when they're
They're just
not
pussies.
being. Well, no, I mean like if the running back feels mad, what? Take it out on the field. If your quarterback's mad, it's like what is he going to throw the tablet and go take the next snap? Like there's nothing you can really do about it, but they can tank a locker room because everyone has to ask them stuff. Everyone has to have them be in the right headspace. If my left guard's having a bad day, I don't give a fuck. Block.
Yeah.
If my quarterback's having a bad day, dog, I was open and I need to tell you that so you don't not notice me again. You can't be in a condition where you can't hear me on that. So,
And I mean, it should be less important than that, but like it's the old joke of who's the most beloved guy on a campus, the backup quarterback,
Backup QB,
because
baby.
you know what you have on the field, but what could you have if the other guy was playing?
Yeah. Yeah. I think Ewers, the injury has to be worse for him to have fallen this much. This was the number one recruit in the country. So,
Yeah, but he also wasn't that good last year.
but he was, I mean, he was better than Milrow, Gabriel, and Leonard, in my
Okay, yeah, that's
opinion.
fair.
And Jackson Dart for that matter, actually. But whatever.
well,
I
it's
would,
another case of like what could they be? I have an idea of what Quinn Ewers is, and I don't need him to be anything spectacular, which is why the Dolphins got him, and he's in the same quarterback room as Tua.
yeah.
They just got a guy that they could like work with. I think a lot of teams stuck to their tendencies, so the fits make sense once you look at them. At least you can talk yourself into them.
Yeah, I mean, he fits with Miami, especially because they do a lot of short game, and that's what he did at Texas. So, and he's bad at the deep ball. So, realistically, this is actually a good fit for him, and he will play because Tua will get injured. So, like, he'll get snaps. So, he arguably went to the best place of all the QBs. Um,
Yeah, the best place that wasn't still in college, making $5 million a year.
Speaking of Miami, Carson Beck decided not to declare. Do you think that was the right call? He went to Miami instead of declaring for the NFL draft.
Undeniably. They gave a guy coming off Tommy John surgery $4 million. Like,
Okay, well, I guess when you put it like that, I was thinking more a lot of pretty mid quarterbacks went in the NFL. But yes, he made $4 million and he gets to live in
y-
Miami.
yeah, I don't know. It's hard to look at it because I've got the round by round filtered to quarterbacks right now, and it's like there's a real run here in round six between Kyle McCord, Will Howard, Riley Leonard, Mertz, Cam Miller. That feels like the pack that Beck should slot into. But then that's totally blown up by, Tyler Shuck going in the second round, a guy with a really serious injury history. Like that dude doesn't have legs anymore, and he's 28 years old, and he went in the second round. So like, yeah, maybe a team takes Carson Beck in like the top three rounds, but
It just
Yeah.
takes one.
it just takes one. The Browns might have drafted him along with the other two quarterbacks they got.
Yeah, I'll go with you and say he probably made the right call. I think he would have suffered more of a Quinn Ewers fate than a Riley Leonard. Evidently, mobility was pretty prioritized. Jackson Dart, Gabriel, Milrow, Leonard, all mobile as QBs, and Ewers and Beck relatively
And
immobile.
Shedeur also pretty immobile.
Yeah, comparatively.
Yeah, definitely compared to those guys.
For the Colts drafting Riley Leonard. This is the I had to look this up because I forgot his first name. But Sam Ellinger was formerly a Colt, and I think it's nice having his spiritual successor be drafted this year in Riley Leonard.
I guess they just like QBs that can not throw the ball well. Like they don't want to drop off after Anthony Richardson.
But
Like, like
goddamn, can they sneak? They
yeah,
can do a quarterback sneak so well.
they don't have to change their offense. Um, that sucks, but either way. Okay. SEC Defensive Player of the Year, Kyle Kennard. Josh, this was your topic. You wanted this one.
The Chargers made some fun picks in the draft. That's my favorite team. So I'm glad that they got some really good players. Two South Carolina guys, Kyle Kennard, SEC Defensive Player of the Year, like you said, and then Rocket Sanders, undrafted. I think I had a moment where I relearned that it's really, really hard to get into the NFL because we watch guys be stars. Like we see them play in the toughest conference at the highest level that they could for their position, win all these awards, and then the NFL guys see him and they're unimpressed, and there might not be room. And there might be 25 guys taken at their position in the case of Rocket Sanders, and he's not even 26. He's undrafted. It's just surprising. Like I know there's injury history, there's meetings with Shedeur and everything. Like I understand like there's a deeper evaluation, but I looked at 6 foot 4'4", 640, 217-pound Rocket Sanders and said, that is an NFL player. And the NFL said, maybe.
His name's Rocket.
What are we
Good name.
doing?
I'm surprised Xavier Restrepo also didn't get any rub.
Incredible.
Yeah,
And
that
people
one's
were
crazy.
watching Cam Ward film. Xavier Restrepo never left anything on the table. He was fantastic. He progressed statistically. You look at his box scores, they make sense. They show a
How
player that's maturing,
how
but he
old
had
is
a
he?
shitty 40 time at his pro day. He only played 4 years. He just has an old
Oh
looking
God.
face.
Fuck the NFL Combine. It's such a stupid thing that is so overvalued. Even Scatterboo dropped because he can't bench. I guess that is a huge thing.
He didn't have a good 40 either, so he dropped a little bit.
How often in this game of football are you even in a dead sprint? Like, I guess receiver maybe, but still, like 40 times just overvalued.
I think people are using GPS tracking, and like if you see I think I saw something today. Rocket Sanders had like the fastest top speed. He had a top speed of 23.55 miles per hour at one point. Like, well, that doesn't even make sense. I understand it's a fluctuation in a GPS rating, but I'm like, wow, what a first step. Undrafted.
But for the record, we're right and the NFL experts are wrong. They
That's
draft stupid
correct.
teams
They're
and stupid
very
players.
often very wrong.
Well, I think it's time we talk about the Nico story at Tennessee. Um, from what I understand, he held out in spring training to try and get more money after already getting more money with Tennessee. Is that roughly correct?
So he didn't get more money. He was still on the same deal that we all heard about 3 or 4 years ago when he was coming out of high school. He was going to get 2 mil a year, year four of a 4 year contract for 8 mil total. And from what I understand, basically from when Tennessee got knocked out until he held out at the end of spring practice, uh, it was back and forth negotiations that were somewhat one-sided from the Nico end, is my understanding. And
So
then it got to the last practice before the spring game. The Iamaliavas felt like they weren't getting what they had earned by playing 1 year of decent SEC quarterback play.
he wasn't even as good as the guy he just replaced.
Yeah. And I mean, talk about a total misevaluation of your own value. Like,
Okay, did he just do it too late in the cycle? Like, had he gotten kicked off the team before that, do you think he would have had a better landing spot than UCLA?
I think that if he wanted to make the move, he needed to do it in the fall window, but Tennessee was in the playoff. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, number one, the spring window is a bad place to be a quarterback because your team has already gone through spring practice. You're going to have to go and learn a new offense and get good relationships with the coaches and the line and the receivers and everyone in like 4 months with no practice except for fall camp. Like,
And you can't transfer within the SEC, right?
No.
you have to sit a year if you do, like the old rules, and that's just an SEC
Oh.
conference rule.
Okay. So just a terrible negotiation, then he just completely fucked up. Also, is 2 million undervalued for a Q starting QB? Especially one who's not even playing that good. But still, is that like average? Do we know that? Because
It's
I
hard
don't
to
know these
say
NIL deals.
exactly. It's hard to say exactly because there is no like what public clearinghouse like they're trying to do yet. So it's tough to really get a beat on what the numbers are. I know they're really high, and I know that they change based on a market that fluctuates all the time, but 2 million sounds pretty good.
Sounds
Carson Beck
high.
got four,
And
so
that's
that's the tier he saw himself at for more years, so makes sense, but
Yeah,
oops.
I mean, that's the thing. Like you said, we don't know averages. We only know like the dudes who feel good enough about it to say what they got, or the ones that are just rumors. Like, I mean, the 4 mil to Beck is a pretty strongly supported rumor, but it's still a rumor. It's not like it's something that got announced. Uh, I mean, I don't know if you had to rate Nico out of all of the, 16 quarterbacks who played the most in the SEC this year, where is he? 10?
Yeah, about average. I would say about average. I mean, he was projected to be really good though. That was the
Hmm.
problem. Especially
think
after
the
Hendon Hooker, they were expecting a real step up.
I think the thing is they wanted a quarterback with pro tools, but they don't run a pro offense. So I don't know how it was expected to translate, especially when they were like so ground and pound last year. Like the stats, counting wise, aren't going to look so great. But I'm sure there's like inefficiencies and like unnecessary sacks that you see with a freshman quarterback. I mean, I look at him the way I look at like a redshirt freshman like Avery Johnson last year, where it's like, all right, you're a good player, but I'm more excited about the player you'll be next year
Yeah, and
and
also they
trying
just
to
don't want the
capitalize
headache.
on that before you get to next year is a little tough.
He was doing a little Shedeur Dion thing, but his dad's not the coach. Is kind of the vibe I got. Like, I just don't think they want to deal with the headache, you know? I mean, it's not worth it. And then also we had texted about this. It's just like it would set a terrible precedent if they allowed him to renegotiate a deal, an $8 million deal.
Under that kind of duress. Like,
Yeah, you cannot do that. Um,
and I mean, I'm just looking at this right now. I mean, the thing that is wild to me is the goal for an SEC starting quarterback, the goal for any college football player is the NFL, right? But if you're an SEC starting quarterback and you clearly have a really high opinion of your skills, you think that you're going to be a first round type player. Why are you not sticking with a team that made the playoff last year, is going to be on the biggest stage? They, you know, might get into the playoff again this year. Who knows? But looking at the table of NFL draft pick value, like you don't get below $4 million a year until pick 29 in the draft. And even then, that 3.9 million yearly salary comes with 15 million guaranteed like total contract value. So it's like you're it's just short-sighted. Like you're yeah, 4 mil a year sounds awesome. And you know, God knows I would jump at a chance to try and get something like that for myself right now. But like, dude, you have a lot on the table and you're not going to get the same stage at UCLA, a shitty team. Like,
yeah, the only upside I can think is like, hey, UCLA's in the Big Ten, and revenue sharing is starting. So
that's true.
you're totally right that like your actual career earnings, this is a terribly stupid and short-sighted decision. He fortunately still managed to stay in one of the big two leagues, which will probably give him a bit of a cushion. Um, you had something about revenue sharing, right?
Yeah, I I mean, this is going to be somewhat bleak about the future of the sport we love, but uh this is going to a really, really bad cliff for I think any kind of traditional college football fan. Like the the sport has already been blown up, but when revenue sharing happens, or if I guess we don't know totally for sure, but it's very, very, very likely to happen that they're going to approve this settlement. Uh, these players are going to be under, actual contracts more than likely. I don't know how exactly everything's going to work out, but directly from their schools, they're going to be employees of some stature, probably independent contractors, whatever. Um, but then it becomes a job, and the NCAA doesn't have an antitrust exemption, so they're subject to labor laws. So someone is going to sue the NCAA about eligibility because if you're a, 24-year-old player who isn't going to go to the NFL, but some college would give you 1 million to play passable quarterback for them, but you can't because you're out of eligibility, that the whole eligibility, I
Yeah.
foresee the whole eligibility model getting blown up, and we're gonna have like 34-year-old college football players in like 10 years.
We already do. Eligibility is already fucked
I'm
up,
not,
So it's gonna get
but
worse. Yeah.
but these are, it's edge cases, it's the COVID year, it's medical, all this shit. There's no one beyond like 7 or 8 years except for that one guy who was on 9. But like it, it's just going to turn into a semi-pro league of dudes who can make, you know, 700K to be like, yeah, I've been to 8 different schools in the last 10 years and I'm just moving around getting a bag. Like, I don't know. And I just don't like that. I feel like it's going to happen. I
Hmm.
don't know. I can't say with 100% certainty that's going to happen, but I know a little bit about labor laws, and I know the NCAA likes to get their ass whooped in court.
Uh, I
Uh,
think you're right.
you're right. I feel like it won't get to quite that, but I think you're right. I mean, the
If nothing
whole,
happens.
yeah, I mean, if they're considered employees, we are going to bankrupt like 95% of college football teams immediately. Like instantly, like the healthcare question of these guys comes in and it just instant bankruptcy for most of these. Um, yeah. Yeah, you're right, but I don't know. There's no point in speculating it past that, but you're right. If they are considered employees, it gets really messy really fast. And you're right that
Yeah.
the NCAA has terrible lawyers who constantly lose.
Well, I
Um,
don't even know if they're bad lawyers. I think they just have been sitting on indefensible labor positions
Yeah,
for
they've been operating in
decades.
an obviously illegal like
okay, maybe they're incredible lawyers then.
They just they just had to keep this scam going for long enough and sing fight songs in court and be like, "See, this is what we stand for. Don't you
Don't you love
understand?"
state you?
Exactly.
Okay, this is the silver lining of revenue sharing though, which I mentioned to Josh. It's a tiny positive, I would say, is that I think revenue sharing within leagues will help competitiveness. Between leagues, it will make things way worse than they've ever been. So, for example, I think a team like Mississippi State in the SEC will probably benefit from the revenue sharing model and be more competitive for it. If you're the Big 12 and the ACC, it's looking pretty bleak right now. Um, so I think the conference races are going to get better, but I think the fewer conference races will matter to the broader public. So that's
I,
kind of how I see it playing out.
I think you're right. I think that's definitely a positive. And I think another positive that we could see is more stability. I mean, if we're getting revenue sharing, I mean, it's above board. You're getting what I hope to see is like, the college equivalent of a multi-year contract, where I think it'll be better for coaches. If something like that were to happen, don't have to re-recruit your dudes every year. We can get back a little bit to the days of my team isn't turning over 30 to 50% of its roster every single year.
Yeah, and I think the Big 12 race, which is already, I would argue, the most like balanced competitive league, will be like even more so with this new
I think you're
model.
right.
Um, last things was just the some of the transfer portal news. Um,
Speaking of
John,
roster turnover,
yeah, John, you mentioned that Brian Harson, who is the running back coach at Cal,
Offensive coordinator.
really, they're letting him be the offensive coordinator. I feel like he's
That's
you
only
don't
right.
led
sound so
horrendous.
shocked.
I feel like he's led pretty bad offenses. Um,
Yes.
so his entire running back room has left.
Essentially, yeah. It's either 7 of 8 or 8 of 9. And it's like of the 20, s- like of the players that returned from last year and still had eligibility and like stuck through the fall window, uh, they're losing like 18 of the 22 or whatever of like the starting players that or the presumed starters that got through the season last year and the fall window. I mean, talk about a total shit show at Cal. And Brian Harson, by all accounts, not the most chummy dude to work with, but like, holy shit.
They could make a documentary about his ability to have become an SEC head coach while being this disliked by everybody. It's crazy. He really goes to show that you really just have to have one decision maker like you, and literally any other person could hate you, and you will make bank in life. You sit in the right hot tub at the right
Hey man.
convention, and
He's still getting a paycheck for that, dude, once a year. I think he's got
Man,
another two of those sweet, sweet Auburn $5 million paychecks.
God, wow, I forgot. That's so funny. I'm so Big 12 pilled. Like I'm like $5 million hot dog. Like Coach Money is totally different over there.
Yeah. And also, so you mentioned Miller Moss. He was it Louisville he transferred to.
Yeah,
They got a
just
good
like
one.
one of those moves that like, oh, that happened.
I'm
And
high
then
on Miller
in
Moss.
August, you're just gonna find out. Yeah, I think he's like a fine guy. And what they were doing in Louisville last year,
Hmm.
like when they had like the Tyler Shuck healthy game, it's like, all right, we got a guy that won't be running for his life.
What an indictment though that he left Lincoln Riley or Lincoln Riley left him for him to go to Louisville, which I think is a better offense. They just got a QB drafted, and I'm high on Miller Moss. I actually think he's really good. I just think it was a nightmare season at USC, but I sincerely believe he'll surprise some people. I think he's gonna have a good season.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
go play Pitt and SMU and Wake Forest and rack up stacks and get taken 40th overall. Let's do it.
I think he's a good QB. I think he really has a lot of NFL tools too. Like I really am high on him. I really am. Louisville got a good one. Is pretty much all I have to say about it.
Oh,
Um,
and you're not just saying that from the Reddit account on their
yes.
page.
Well, everyone got a good one from that account, but okay. Well, I think that's everything. Unless we want to say anything about the fact that Bill Belichick is an elderly man being abused by a 24-year-old girlfriend. Did you guys see the CBS interview that came out?
60
I
Minutes
I couldn't watch it.
does some great work. Yeah, it's one of the hardest things to like actually sit through. There was a 30-second clip of being like, "So, how'd you guys meet?" And we're not answering that. Oof.
Yeah, that was the only thing I saw, and I was like, "Damn, dude, you literally have a daughter older than this one, man. Like, have some standards." Like,
I remember watching A Football Life uh on NFL Network in like 2011, and they did the Bill Belichick one, and he's like, fishing with his son, and like his son like visits him in his office, and I'm thinking like, was this was his daughter like born between then and then? Like when was this filmed? Like I started doing the math and it just felt bad to do. Like him and Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp, I think, is a little bit more serious right now,
yeah.
Oh my
but
Uh,
God.
it's like, oh
the
boy.
the Bill Belichick thing has penetrated into the coworker class,
Nice.
as John refers to them as, because I was at the museum. And I was talking to my friend about the Bill Belichick thing because it just had happened, and the random woman, ticketing woman, who I am very confident does not watch football, just said it's disgusting, and that's all she said as we were walking by. So,
Nobody wanna see us together,
and the
but it
last thing
don't
I'll
matter, no.
and the last thing I'll say is apparently every email to him at UNC from his staff, she has to be CC'd on the email apparently. So this
Yeah,
UNC season is about to be bad, bro. This is not going to be a good season. He is checked out. He is cashing a paycheck. He does not care.
that's right. He just wants to take some more yoga photos on the beach, dude.